your day has been, Miss Fairfax?
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever you talk about the weather, I always feel quite certain that you mean something else.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
I would like to take advantage of being Branden's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I've admired you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite well aware of the fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, it would have been more demonstrated. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent towards you. You see, Mr. Worthing, we live in an age of ideals, as I hope you know. The fact has reached the more expensive looking magazines, and even the pulpits I am told. And it has always been my ideal to love someone of the name of Ernest.
You really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't mean to tell me that you couldn't love me if your name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know this, but saying it was something different. Do you mean to tell me you couldn't love me if I had another name?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like all metaphysical speculations, has very little relevance at all to the actual facts of real life, as we know them.
Well, to speak quite candidly, darling, I don't like the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me at all.
Oh, it suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Gwendolyn, I don't like the name of Ernest. I think a much more charming name. Jack.
Jack. No, there is very little music in the name of Jack. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman married to a man named John. She would probably never know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude.
Gwendolyn, I must get Kristen. I mean, we must get
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, you know that I love you, and you led me to believe that you weren't absolutely different from me.
I adore you, but you haven't even proposed. The subject of marriage has not even been touched upon.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I feel quite inclined to tell you, frankly, I am deeply determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing. What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say.
Oh, yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Oh, yes, of course, darling. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you have very little experience in how to propose.
Oh, my own. I've never loved anyone in the world like you.
Oh, yes, but I may not have proposed for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Oh, what wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you'll always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people around.
Mr. Worthing! Rise, sir, from the semi-recumbent posture is most indecorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing's not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Honey, you're not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father will inform you of the fact. I'm of opinion that a wedding should come upon a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as it may be. This hardly a matter should be allowed to arrange for itself. Now, Mr. Worthing, I have a few questions to put to you. While I make these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
But Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn! Gwendolyn! The carriage!
Yes, Mama.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Branden, for first name.
I feel bound to tell you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list the dear Duchess of Boltonham. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite inclined to add you, should your answers be whatever the affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
Very pleased to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I'm of opinion, Mr. Worthing, that a man who wishes to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady
I'm glad to hear it. I don't approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The entire theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a safe state for the upper class and lead to violent acts in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
And land or investments?
Investments cheap.
That is satisfactory. But between the duties exacted from one during one lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That is all that can be said about land.
Well, I own a country house with about 1,500 acres of land attached to it, but I don't get my real income for that. As far as I can make out, voters are the only people that make anything out of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, we'll clear that fact up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. I can get it at any moment's notice as long as just within 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham. I don't know her.
She is a lady considerably advanced in years. She goes about fairly.
There's hardly a guarantee of respectability of character, Mr. Worthing. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable sound. I knew there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Fashion of the sun.
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I have none. I'm a liberal communist.
They count as Tories. They come to dine in the evening or come by for dinner at any rate. Now, on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I'm afraid I've lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be seen as misfortunate. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who is your father? Evidently he was a man of some wealth. Did he rise from what the radical papers call the purple of commerce, or was he from the ranks of the aristocracy?
Like I said, Lady Bracknell, I've lost my parents, but it does seem more near to the truth to say that my parents have lost me. You see, Lady Bracknell, I was found.
Found.
Yes, by the late Mr. Thomas Harvey, an old gentleman of a kindly disposition. He found me in a handbag, and he happened to give me the name of Worthing, because he had a ticket to Worthing. Worthing is a place in Sussex, and it is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to the seaside resort find you?
Like I said, Lady Bracknell, in a handbag.
A handbag.
Yeah, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag is to be found.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
At the cloakroom in Victoria Station.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I feel somewhat bewildered what you've just told me. To be born or bred in a handbag seems to me to display contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life, which reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I hope you understand what that unfortunate movement led to. And the particular locality of this handbag, a cloakroom in a train station, seems to me to display social indiscretion. It's probably been used for that fact before now, but it's hardly an assured basis for good position in society.
Okay, then what do you expect me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would advise you, sir, to find a relation of some sort before the season is quite over and to produce at least one parent of either sex.
How do you expect me to manage to do that? I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that would satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has this got to do with me? You can hardly imagine I or Lord Bracknell will allow our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care,